Welcome to FadeIn, presented by Carnegie Screenwriters. I'm your host, Daisy Jade, and today we have special guest, filmmaker PJ Gaynard. Thank you so much for joining us today, PJ.
Oh, you're very welcome. Happy to be here.
All right, well, I know you wear a lot of many hats. Tell us a little bit about your production company.
I run a company called Goat Milk Fudge Productions.
Now I love that name.
It came because there used to be a sign in Canonsburg, PA, that said Goat Milk Fudge on it. It was on the side of the highway. And I saw it the entire time I was growing up.
Okay.
And I told my friends we should steal that sign, but they would not do it. They would not. So anytime we drive by, I'd be like, we should stop. We should steal that sign. You know, so when we got in high school, we had cars. They wouldn't let me do it. So I came home when I was in college, and I think it was my second freshman year. I started out in engineering, and I transferred to film.
Okay.
So I came home, and it was in the winter, and my friends weren't with me. They could not stop me. So I pulled over on the side of the road. I ripped the sign and the giant pole it was on out of the ground with my bare hands. I tried to use tools, but the bolts were rusted on.
Right.
And then the next morning, I had my dad help me cut the bolts off, and he had said that the sign had been there since as long as he could remember. So at least since he was a small child. So the sign had been there like at least 40 years, and I felt a little bad. But the following year, they leveled that hillside and put in a BMW dealership. Oh,
well then I guess you did them a favor to say, hey, there's no reason for this to be here anymore. And not only that, you borrowed their name as well. So
yeah, so people in the CBG in Canonsburg, they'll remember that sign. So I named my company after that.
Okay. And what sort of things do you do?
We do a little bit of everything. Okay. I have produced short films, produced some feature films, independent feature films. Okay. I've edited feature films. I've shot feature films. Done short films, directed, shot, edited, produced, wrote short films, industrial videos. Okay. Have made educational pieces for YouTube, for Cal State Northridge. Nice. Alliant International University. I've made content for Chevron. I've done camera work for the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. So I've sort of been around.
Yeah, jack of all trades.
All these different tasks. Very excited. Soon I'll be acting again. So
Very
I haven't
cool.
done some acting in a while. So it'll be nice to be acting in Steve Rudzinski's film Karos Hell.
Okay. So, awesome.
I'm going to be a guy in a mascot. I'm going to be like a mascot for an amusement park.
Oh, very fun.
Yeah.
One of PJ's films is called Lost Dog, and we're going to take a look at it right now.
Excuse me? Have you seen a dog? I live down there, and I thought he might have run through the fence.
I did see a dog. I think an animal got it. About 2 weeks ago. Do you want to see it?
No thanks.
Come on. It'd be cool. It's starting to smell. You could touch it, but you can't take it with you.
So I heard you were involved in some of the local 48-hour productions we have here. Would you like to tell me about one of your favorites?
Sure. So I've done two so far, Lost Dog and The Incredible Cases of Zara Gordon. And The Incredible Cases of Zara Gordon we made last fall for the horror version of the 48-hour.
Okay.
And we're hoping to turn it into a web series. So I'm really excited to talk about that.
Oh, very cool.
It's a story about Zara Gordon, whose husband was brutally murdered by a fast-moving puppet. And so she goes on a get-back trail. You know, she gets tough, and then she gets motivated, and she goes after the puppets and starts, killing puppets. And then that sort of spurs that's what happens in the 48-hour film, and now we want to tell the rest of the story where she tracks down more and more puppets and what it leads to.
Okay, so you're going to turn it into a web series. That's exciting.
That's right. So we're currently looking for funding and doing some writing, and hopefully soon we'll be shooting, and it stars Christine Mancini, who's a local actor. She's wonderful, extremely intelligent, and also she's a presence. It also stars Alison Blackwell, and she's wonderful. She plays Zara Gordon's assistant. Okay. And she uses her own name. She is Alison Blackwell in the film. Okay. And Alison Blackwell in real life. And it's co-produced by by Kevin Hayna, if you know Kevin.
I do.
He's
I
been on
interviewed him the
program.
other week.
Yeah. We've got a great group of writers, and we've got a great team, and so we're really excited to hopefully get into production soon. So if anybody out there would like to donate, that would be really great.
Okay, and how would they donate for you?
They would have to contact me through my website.
Okay.
We did do a Kickstarter campaign, and we were not successful.
Okay.
But there are other ways to get it done.
Absolutely. Now, what we're going to do right now is take a look at the incredible cases of Zara Gordon.
Who wants cookies?
Thanks, Mom.
My.
You just alluded to starting off in engineering. Now, how did you make the transition into film?
You know, you would think that there's nothing connected between engineering and film, but actually they're extremely similar.
Okay.
Engineers are sort of like modern day inventors, right? They're usually focused inventors, focused on some task.
Right.
But they're often inventing, and that was why I found engineering, because I was interested in inventing. So in high school, I did engineering-related technology at Western Area Vocational Technical School,
Okay.
which was a special 2-year program where you learned engineering type stuff.
Okay.
And that was great. And when I went to college, I really thought, you know, robotics, pick and place robotics, and industrial engineering was my future. And I just had a total meltdown.
Really? Was it just because the program was difficult, or you realized this isn't for you, or?
I'm not particularly, I'm okay at math, but I was taking, the maximum number of credits that you're allowed to take is 18. And I was signing papers so that I could take 19 and 20 credits.
Oh, wow.
So it was an incredible workload.
Of course.
And I was not succeeding. They made me take chemistry, and I wasn't doing well in college level chemistry, and I wasn't doing well in the math classes, which started at 8 o'clock in the morning, which is not good for me in college. So I just wasn't succeeding, and it was fairly obvious. Like, you know, I had a couple D's, I had an F in one class, and you know, that freshman year, things just weren't working.
Right. And
in that period of time when things weren't working, I had some friends who were making films, and they said, look, we need somebody to come out and act in this movie.
Okay.
And then I acted in the film. And then they said, you know what? We don't need anybody to act in this movie, but will you come and help out on the crew?
Right.
And then I helped out, and I got the bug.
And that's how it all started.
Yeah, that's how it started.
Okay, well, I know that you have a very exciting new project coming up that has to do with wrestling. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
We're almost to picture lock. We're just about
Okay.
to picture lock. We must be on edit like 15. It's a short film. It's going to be about 19 minutes. It's called The Eliminadora.
Okay.
It's about a little girl who wants to be a masked Mexican wrestler. Well, she wants to be a masked wrestler. She's, American indigenous or Mexican American is her descent.
Okay.
So she wants to be a masked wrestler. And she's extremely excited about it, and her parents are not. So her parents say no, and that, you know, sends her off on a quest to find a way to get them to say yes.
Like most children, you know, sometimes our parents don't believe in our dreams, but it sounds like it'll be a fun turnout. Did you have any fun stories to share about, production with that movie?
Oh, it was wonderful. We shot that movie on Red Scarlets and Red Epics, and we had Tito Santana out for part of the movie. It was really great. We set up a wrestling ring in a giant studio, a blacked-in studio, because this little girl has a lot of dream sequences. She daydreams about wrestling. So if her mom says no, then she imagines her and her mother in the ring battling it out.
Right.
So we have to shoot that. So we made a costume for Mom, you know, this like purple costume.
Fun.
It says Mom in like yellow letters across her back, and she has like a cape, and she's like, nobody's gonna break your back through wrestling except me.
Right.
You know, and then she's putting her in like arm holds and neck
Yeah.
locks and stuff like that. So that was very cool. Having Tito Santana there was extra great.
Of course.
Tito's not a young guy anymore, so we have a scene of him as like a giant evil wrestler, and then right before they're about to wrestle, a referee comes in and says, "Hold it. I'm sorry, you have to forfeit the match. There's no girls allowed in wrestling.
Oh.
No little girls allowed in wrestling.
Right.
It's too dangerous of a sport." And she just starts crying, and she goes like, "Well, how am I supposed to win if I'm not allowed to fight?"
Right.
And then so she's crying, and then Tito starts crying, and then the referee starts crying, and everybody's crying. And so that's it's an important part of the film. And then we at the end of that day, we had I asked Tito. I said, "Tito, can you do like a 1-minute thing to camera, like challenging the Eliminadora to a wrestling match?" And he goes, "Yeah, okay, I'm 1 minute." And he's like, "Yeah." So he's standing in front of the green screen, and I say, "Action!" And I was immediately like 10 years old again.
Oh, wow.
Like he's just like, right into the camera,
Yeah.
"You've been bothering me for 10 years, and now I'm finally gonna get in the ring. You and I,
Yeah.
wrestling." And then he goes, "Arriba!" And it's Tito Santana, like, and
that
he's
must be
wearing
so cool.
He's wearing a shirt of him. He's wearing it says Tito, and it's
okay.
him younger.
Oh, that's cute.
So it's Tito wearing Tito.
Right.
And we had him when he was in the ring. We had him wearing the WrestleMania 1 jacket,
Oh, wow.
and he gave the little girl's dad the WrestleMania 1 jacket.
Oh, very cool. That
So-
sounds so exciting.
Yeah, because so I wrote the film with
Okay.
Jesus Renteria.
Okay.
So the little girl who stars in the film is Nadia Renteria, and Jesus and Anna are her parents.
Okay.
So it was their idea to make the film.
Very cool.
And Jesus wrote the first draft, and then I wrote 6 further drafts. And,
Wow.
and it changed, it got better throughout the drafts. Jesus is not exactly a scriptwriter, but he had a great idea for
yeah,
his story.
absolutely. Sounds like it.
And his story is still in there. It's definitely his story. Like when you read the first draft and then you read the last draft, you can see everything that I brought. And I brought a lot of stuff, but you can still see like Jesus is in there because he used to be a professional wrestler as well.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So he wrestled in El Paso, around the El Paso area, and then in Mexico. But the dad was a masked wrestler. He did it for many, many years. So he's not in he is in the movie, just briefly.
Oh, he makes like a little cameo or.
Well, he makes a different cameo.
Okay.
But somebody does wear his outfit. The person playing the dad in the movie wears his outfit.
Oh, wow. So the outfit that he had worn as a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Now, because you have wrestling, matches, did you have any, I don't know, broken bones or anything? Like, was there any mishaps with that, or was it a pretty smooth production?
No, it was very smooth. We had a fight choreographer, Devin McNair, who is a professional wrestler herself, and a stunt woman, and a stunt coordinator, and a stunt choreographer. And she came on board and pretty much said, "Look, my dream is to work with kids and to do choreography with children." She's like, "This project is like the dream project for me."
Very cool.
So she came on board, and she ended up getting a producer credit with us because she did so much. I don't know if you know much about the wrestling community, but it's very tight-knit. And so we shot that movie in Los Angeles, and she knew everywhere to get a wrestling ring. There's only like 5 or 6 in town. So she's like, I know everybody who has a ring.
So she had the connections. That worked out great for you guys.
Yeah, and also we needed additional wrestlers. And she knew where to get additional wrestlers.
Very cool.
And she's in the movie herself.
Okay.
She's got a role in the film, and she does wrestle with Nadia, and she taught Nadia all the moves Nadia got taught by her, but also by her dad.
Of course. Right. It ran in the family,
Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been so exciting for her, just as a little girl to be able to, first of all, act, but also do something that her and her dad shared together, I guess. So.
Well, that's the second film I've worked with Nadia in. Nadia also acts in a short film I made called How to Make a Peanut Butter and Jelly Sandwich.
Okay.
And she plays the little girl in that film.
All right. Now tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, How to Make a Peanut Butter and Jelly Sandwich was sort of like, it was a film that I wrote as something for myself, but as sort of a culminating experience once I got my master's degree in humanistic studies.
Okay.
So I went to Cal State Northridge, and I got this master's degree, and it wasn't, my undergrad is in film and video.
Okay.
And I could have gotten a master's in cinematography or directing, but I feel like I sort of know how to do that stuff. I could be better. I definitely could be better.
Right.
But I wanted to broaden my horizon. I figured, like, there's one thing to know how to use the pencil, right? And then there's another thing to know what to write with it.
Absolutely.
And so I felt like the humanistic studies angle really helped me learn about what I can write with filmmaking. Like, what can I make with these movies?
Right.
And so I wanted to do sort of like a culminating experience of all the different philosophical topics we learned about in the humanistic studies humanities degree that I took. And that's what How to Make a Peanut Butter and Jelly Sandwich is.
Okay.
So you look at, it's pretty simple. It's peanut butter and jelly and bread. But there are these little choices that you make all the time, every day, hundreds of them. And if you start to unpackage those choices, you find out that you can go right to the heart of your being very quickly as to why you do certain things certain ways. So bread choice seems relatively simple.
Right.
Until you start thinking about the bread itself. White bread is not very nutritionally sound. I mean, it's
true.
It's soft and fluffy, but it's not very good for you.
Right.
So, is it really a choice to choose white bread, or is it sort of like, if you choose another bread choice, if it's almost like self-respect. And so, like, the first guy who talks, he talks about, like, if you are what you eat, that means that the atoms in you, even in your brain. So, is your character created by what you eat? And if your character's created by what you eat, then, well, what about the soul? And you're like, well, maybe you believe in a soul, maybe you don't. But if you do, well, then you could say, well, but I know when I don't eat, I can get really crazy.
Right. All right.
And then I know that my body has an effect on my behavior and it has an effect on my soul. Like, they're connected somehow.
Right.
So if I choose to eat white bread and I know it's not really that good for me, then I don't respect myself when I do that. So bread choice is actually like a big deal.
It actually is. That makes a lot of sense.
And then, so we go through the whole thing, peanut butter, of course. If you're a crunchy or a creamy person, is it choice or is it inherent nature? And then, or is it both? A little bit of each. Maybe that's harmony, is when choice and inherent nature are, like, connected. And then I did something very different with jelly. Because jelly, I wanted to talk about the women's perspective, a woman's perspective. And I think that women sort of think about problems slightly different than men. It's not that you can't reach.
Certainly not.
Obviously, everybody can reach the same conclusions, but we know that people from different perspectives go about problems in different ways.
Of course.
And so I think that people talk about looking at the feminine perspective, and we talked about in my master's program, we talked about how you could break down any paper from a feminist perspective, and that it would be it might be a different perspective than the masculine perspective.
Right.
So I wanted to talk about jelly, and of course jelly is sexy.
Yeah.
But then when you think about sex, I can't help but think about the feminine beauty ideal, which I don't know if you know much about the feminine beauty ideal.
I actually did take my freshman year of college a feminist class a little bit, but go ahead and elaborate on your perspective of that.
Well, the feminist beauty ideal says that there's this like double standard, right? That I can show up sort of disheveled and still do my job, and people don't question it. They don't really even comment on my looks, unless it's really a problem. Like, it's fine. And it's not the first thing that people notice about me. Where sometimes with women, it's the first thing that's noticed. Before how smart they are, before how strong they are. It's just whether they look pretty or not. And this gets indoctrinated into small children, right? When you go to see a little boy, you don't say, oh, look how pretty you are. First thing you say to the boy is like, well, let's play with your ball. You know, what have you been reading? Things like that.
Right.
And then the little girl immediately, you know, oh, you look so pretty in that dress. And it's just those little things. And if you do some research on it, you realize it's sort of like baked in a weird way. It's baked in. And so I wanted to talk about, with Jelly, talk about how you start out as, you know, cute, and then sweet, and then sexy, which sometimes lead to sex. And how quickly that can go. And so I wanted her to talk about, I had this woman talk about how she wishes she was like a formless jelly. So that you would just think about her for her thoughts and her ideas, and not based on anything that she looks like.
Right.
Because she is really beautiful, and she uses everything she has. Everybody does. So, you know, that's sort of, so it's a really short film, but I like just packed it full of as much, and there's more, but you know, but I just packed it full of as much philosophy as I could.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of deep concepts. Now, what sort of films do you like to watch? Do you like to watch films that do have a lot of, you know, depth, that talk about, you know, how humans interact, or do you prefer watching films that are more on the entertaining side? For you personally, how about
I love
for you?
all movies.
Okay.
Every kind of film. I am like the gullible viewer. Some people watch movies and they just pick them apart, especially you find this with new filmmakers, right? They can't help but see the creation.
Yep, exactly.
I can help it. I have no problem. I'm just a gullible, happy, like, you know.
Right.
So I cry. I grab my wife's arm when I watch films, you know, and so, but I do like deep films as well. And when I made Peanut Butter and Jelly, I didn't know about that many philosophy films. But actually, philosophy films is a very odd subset of filmmaking. You know, Dali made films, and they were very very avant-garde. Of course, Andy Warhol made films that were very avant-garde.
Absolutely.
You know, and then the person I learned about after making my film was Slavoj Žižek. I don't know if you've heard of Slavoj Žižek.
I have not.
Slavoj is probably the rock star of the philosophy world.
Okay.
So he is an amazing philosopher, and I would say him, David Chalmers, Noam Chomsky, they're like top 3 in the world. They've got to be at least in the top 5 of anybody's list.
Okay.
So Žižek has made 2 films that I know about, and one is called The Pervert's Guide to Ideology, and the other one is The Pervert's Guide to Filmmaking, and they're very good movies. And what he does, at least in The Pervert's Guide to Ideology, what he does is he inserts himself into famous films.
Okay.
And then, so there'll be like the bedroom scene from Taxi Driver, where Travis Bickle is looking into the mirror, and you know he's got the gun out and stuff.
Right.
And then the shot cuts, and now it's Slavoj in the exact same room. They've recreated the room down to every detail. And then Slavoj is laying in his bed, you know, and they do that film. They start out with They Live. So if you've seen They Live, what? You haven't seen They Live?
I have not.
With Roddy Piper starring.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Speaking of wrestlers. Okay.
It's a great film. It's interesting and it is fun. It's a fun film. But there's this scene where Roddy Piper is trying to get his friend to put these sunglasses on, because when he wears the sunglasses, he can see all these messages hidden in advertisement. It's sort of like the ideology is laid bare.
Right.
And his friend won't put on the glasses. And so they start beating each other, you know, in like a giant brawl, like a 5 to 8 minute brawl, where it's just like, you gotta put on these glasses. no way, I'm not doing it. And then they're beating on one another, and eventually he beats him up so bad that he can't stop him, and he puts the glasses on. And he says, look at what this is like. So, of course, Slavlov. So it's like that shot with Rowdy Piper, and then it cuts, and Slavlov is in an alleyway that looks just like that alleyway.
Oh, wow.
With the same dumpster behind, like everything's sort of set up the same. But he's talking about the philosophy behind the film. So
very cool.
So there are a whole bunch of films like that, but I would say the film that affected me most, that's really changed my life, is the silliest movie ever.
Okay.
The Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Ah, I love the interaction with that movie. You know, whenever they play it.
Have you been?
I have not been to a live event, but I used to love that movie.
But you haven't seen it until you've seen it live.
And throwing the rice and all that stuff. So
I've seen it probably at least 300 to 400 times at bare minimum.
Wow.
At bare minimum. And I stopped keeping track a long time ago. But I think that film really reminds you of how important in filmmaking the spectacle is. People who are filmmakers, we get very focused on the making. But making is not enough. Once it's made, you got to pimp it. People got to see it, and it's got to change their life.
That's right.
And as strange as it is, Rocky Horror changed my life. I did it for 16 years. I played almost all the characters.
Really?
I directed a cast. It taught me how to direct. Probably more than anything else, it taught me how to direct, which is very odd. You know, there's nothing more visceral than having 400 people in an audience laugh at you. It's something you do on stage.
Absolutely.
And I had that happen at all kinds of like little things for Rocky Horror. So, you know, Rocky was really important for me.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Okay, so a little birdie told me that there is something special about the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Do you want to tell me about it?
Well, of course, you know, I met my wife doing the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Really?
Yeah, the first night I saw her, the first time I saw her, she was Dr. Frankenfurter and I was Rocky.
Okay.
I wore a giant gold diaper and had stuff written all over my body in Sharpie. And then our love blossomed during that, and then I proposed to her at Rocky Horror.
Oh, wow, that's
I was
cool.
Brad and she was Janet, and I actually had the ring in the box, and I got them to, the projectionist stopped the movie, and I got up and I gave a speech, and my friends heckled me.
Wow.
And so, Cindy and I, we did Rocky for a long time together. We just celebrated our 12-year anniversary.
Oh, well, congratulations. And that is an exciting way to be proposed. That's so much fun. What kind of advice would you give to someone who is just now starting out?
You know, the thing that I would say is you cannot stop. You must make your movie. So Ira Glass has got this thing on the internet. I don't know if you know Ira Glass. He does This American Life. It's probably the best storytelling across any medium, This American Life. And he says you have to realize that there is the quality of your work starts out very low, right? You don't know what you're doing, but your taste is very high. And so it's going to take a while for your quality to match your taste. It's very easy to stop on that process and think, oh, I'm not any good. Why am I even doing this? But you must do the work.
Wow.
There's a good idea in every single concept. You must do the work. And if you believe in the process, and you just trust that process, you're going to make good stuff.
Well, that is amazing advice. I really appreciate you coming here and joining us today. I mean, I feel like I'm just so excited to see this film, the wrestling film. What is the title of it again?
The Eliminadora.
The Eliminadora. And of course, you can always check out his website to find out more about him and see some other fun clips that he's done. And I definitely want to thank you again for coming here today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. This was fun.
I had so much fun. Well, thank you again for joining us for Fade In, presented by Carnegie Screenwriters. I'm your host, Daisy Jade, and we will see you next time.